Listen, and pay the careful ear of a prince to what I shall declare. For to understand the mechanics that move men is to hold both the cure and the poison. I speak not as a chimney sweeper of secrets, but as one who has examined the courts of power and learned the levers that make men bend. Tonight I name a thing by its nature, a dark algorithm, not of iron and wire, but of pattern, passion, and precise timing, that can, with appalling ease, press upon the mind and make it yield. The first key to understanding this dark algorithm is what I call the invisible pattern. Imagine for a moment that every man, every woman you meet is not guided purely by reason, not by chance, but by a rhythm of signals repeating in their lives. These signals are 3 in number: attention, emotion, and expectation. Whoever learns to master these learns to hack the very mind before him. Begin with attention, for it is the doorway to all influence. A man sees a bright flame in the distance, he cannot look away. A woman hears her name whispered in a crowd. She turns, even if she swore to keep walking. To hold attention is to hold the key to the castle, for where the eyes travel, the thoughts follow, and where thoughts dwell, the will is softened. But attention by itself is fleeting, like a spark on dry straw. Unless it is joined by the second signal, emotion, it burns out too quickly to be of use. Emotion is the fire that keeps attention alive. Men remember not the details of their days, but the moments that stirred their blood: joy, fear, anger, desire. When you see how the crowd trembles at danger, or how they laugh at a small jest, you see the map of their inner terrain. Once you can stir their laughter or awaken their fear, you can direct their gaze as a rider directs a horse with reins. Emotion binds attention, giving it force, giving it endurance. It is the pulse that sustains the gaze once captured. Yet, attention and emotion together are still incomplete, still unstable. To truly hack the mind, the third signal must be invoked: expectation. Every man walks into tomorrow with an image of how it should unfold. He rises expecting the sun to rise, expecting the bread to taste the same, expecting his neighbor to greet him as before. And it is in this expectation that the mind reveals its greatest weakness. For once you learn what someone expects, you can choose whether to fulfill it, mirror it, or break it. If you confirm expectation, you gain trust. If you slightly bend it, you create curiosity. If you shatter it with precision, you seize total control of their mental state. Thus, the invisible pattern is this: capture attention, bind it with emotion, guide it through expectation. These 3 signals repeat endlessly, like drums in the background of every human act. A ruler, a priest, a merchant, even a lover. All who sway others must follow this rhythm, whether they know it or not. What is most dangerous and most powerful is that this pattern is hidden. It is invisible to the very people whose lives it governs. They believe themselves free, yet they are caught in the repetition of these signals as surely as the tide is caught by the moon. When a man scrolls endlessly through words on a page, when a crowd waits breathless for the next line of a speech, when a city turns in unison toward a spectacle, it is not chance. It is the invisible pattern at work. Whoever learns to see it, learns to use it. Whoever ignores it becomes its victim. The second key to this dark algorithm is what I call mirror and dissonance. If the invisible pattern reveals the signals that move men, mirror and dissonance is the lever that bends them. It begins with a truth older than any kingdom. Men trust most easily what resembles themselves. A man finds comfort in a voice that repeats his own thoughts. A woman lowers her guard when her fears are spoken back to her as if they were already known. The mirror is the oldest trick of persuasion, and yet it is the most reliable. For when a man believes you reflect him, he believes you understand him. And when he believes you understand him, he opens the gates of his mind willingly, without the suspicion that guards against intrusion. The mirror works because it speaks to pride as well as comfort. No man resists the pleasure of being affirmed. Tell a prince that his judgment is wise, and he will lean closer to your counsel. Tell a soldier that his courage is unmatched, and he will march where you direct him. Tell a crowd that their fears are justified, and they will cling to you as the one who dares to name their truth. To mirror is to become the trusted echo of another's soul. But the mirror alone is not enough to command. It creates trust, yes, but trust without motion is stillness. To hack the mind, trust must be unsettled, shaken, and then redirected. That is where dissonance enters. Dissonance is the deliberate fracture, the small crack in the mirror that forces the gaze to shift. It is not destruction, it is interruption. A man expects your agreement, but instead, you tilt his expectation just slightly. You present a truth that does not fit neatly with what he already believes. That tiny dissonance unsettles him, makes him pause, makes him vulnerable. In that pause, in that moment of imbalance, the mind becomes malleable. What he thought was certain suddenly feels incomplete. And man, by his nature, hates incompleteness. He craves resolution. He wants the missing piece, the closure, the answer. Consider this. A merchant tells a buyer, yes, this cloth is strong as you believe, but it will not endure the rain. A doubt is born, but so too is a hunger for solution. The buyer, unsettled, seeks the remedy. The merchant then offers the better cloth, the one made for storms. The buyer, believing he has discovered the flaw in its cure, gladly pays the higher price. This is mirror and dissonance. First the comfort of being right, then the discomfort of being incomplete. It is the same in courts, in councils, in assemblies. A ruler praises the people for their courage, mirrors their pride in defending the realm. Then he introduces dissonance. He warns that courage alone cannot guard the gates, that cunning is required. The people, momentarily unbalanced, cling to him as the one who provides the missing cunning. They believe they have seen the whole picture, though in truth it was painted for them. Mirror without dissonance is flattery. Dissonance without mirror is insult. But together they form the most dangerous duet, the echo that draws you near and the crack that makes you cling tighter. This is the rhythm of influence, the secret that makes the dark algorithm swift and precise. When mastered, it does not only persuade, it reshapes. A man who enters the chamber thinking one thought, leaves convinced he has discovered another, and he thanks the very hand that placed it in him. The third key to this dark algorithm is power with prudence. For power without caution is like fire without a hearth. It scorches everything it touches, including the hands that hold it. When you learn that the human mind can be hacked with signals, mirrors, and fractures, you will feel a temptation as strong as any prince who first holds a sword. The temptation is to wield it recklessly, to bend others to your will without measure, to taste the sweetness of control. Such sweetness quickly turns bitter. For power unrestrained breeds enemies faster than it breeds obedience. Prudence is the chain that binds this power so that it serves you rather than consumes you. Understand this. The human mind, though pliable, is not infinitely tolerant. Influence without limits creates resentment, and resentment, when it festers, grows into rebellion. A ruler who manipulates too boldly will find his people whispering in corners, sharpening their daggers in silence. A lover who deceives too deeply will find affection curdled into hatred. A merchant who exploits too shamelessly will find his market vanish into the arms of a rival. To hack the mind is to step into a realm of immense responsibility, for every strike you deliver may return upon you with equal force. Power with prudence means knowing when to press and when to retreat, when to reveal and when to conceal. It means not only bending the will of others, but ensuring that they do not feel broken by your hand. A wise manipulator leaves the subject convinced they have chosen freely, that their decision was born from their own heart. The careless manipulator, drunk with his success, strips away that illusion and exposes his trick. Once unmasked, his art loses its potency, for men despise nothing more than to see how they have been guided. The illusion of choice is the lifeblood of influence. Prudence ensures that illusion is never disturbed. Consider the prince who governs not through terror, but through subtle guidance. He does not force his subjects into obedience. He arranges their expectations so that they walk willingly into his design. He does not crush dissent with iron chains. He bends it with small concessions, weaving it back into loyalty. His power endures because his prudence shields him from the hatred that ruins tyrants. Contrast this with the reckless ruler who manipulates without restraint. who forces minds and hearts into unnatural shapes. His reign burns brightly for a season but ends in ashes, for the people unite against him, driven less by logic than by the primal fury of betrayal. Prudence demands that you measure the dose of influence as an apothecary measures poison. Too little, and it has no effect. Too much, and it kills the patient and draws suspicion upon the doctor. The skilled hand gives just enough to stir, just enough to guide, never enough to awaken rage. This is the fine line every wielder of influence must learn to walk. Those who cross it stumble into ruin, while those who honor it walk with power that lasts. And yet prudence is not only about survival, it is also about legacy, for power used wisely creates stability, and stability breeds loyalty. Men forgive being guided if they believe it has spared them greater suffering. They forgive being persuaded if they believe it has brought them honor or safety. The manipulator who wields power with prudence does not simply control men for a moment, he shapes the course of years, perhaps even generations. It is the difference between the fleeting dominance of a trickster and the enduring authority of a statesman. To understand the dark algorithm is to stand at a crossroads. One path leads to tyranny, where influence is abused until it collapses under its own weight. The other path leads to mastery, where influence is applied with care, balance, and foresight. Prudence is the compass that keeps you on the second path, ensuring that the very power you have gained does not one day rise against you in vengeance. You have now seen the dark algorithm in its three faces, the invisible pattern that governs the signals of attention, emotion, and expectation, mirror and dissonance, the art of reflection followed by fracture, and power with prudence, the discipline that keeps influence from turning into ruin. These are not toys, but instruments of immense consequence. Used blindly, they corrupt both master and subject. Used with wisdom, they shield you from deception and grant you the strength to guide without being devoured. The mind, though proud of its freedom, is easily bent by those who know its weaknesses. But the one who sees these mechanics with clarity is no longer a victim of them. He becomes both the defender of his own thought and the cautious wielder of a force that can shape destiny itself. If this revelation opened your eyes, guard the lesson well and share it with those still asleep. Subscribe now, for knowledge is power, and power belongs to the vigilant.